The fire truck sirens ripped through the quiet night by the lake, red and blue lights flashing across the water like war had just broken out. I froze beside the little fire pit I'd built with my own 2 hands, soot still on my palms, when Karen, the HOA's self-appointed queen, pointed at me and screamed, "He's putting the entire community at risk." I swear, for a second I thought my life here was over. But then the fire chief leaned down, inspected the stones and the safety screen, and said, "This is one of the safest backyard fire pits I've ever seen." And just like that, the ground shifted. Karen went pale, and I realized the real storm was only beginning. Act 1. The conflict begins. My name's David Miller. After 30 years on the steel mill floor, I bought myself a little lake cabin. A retirement gift. I wanted nothing but peace, to hear the loons at dusk, to sit by the water with a campfire, and remember my late wife Ellen. The cabin wasn't perfect, leaky roof, old deck, but it was mine. I thought I'd found quiet. I was wrong. Karen Johnson lived 3 doors down in the biggest cabin on the block. Lawn cut like a golf course, always strutting in her wide-brimmed sun hat. She called herself the guardian of order. My first run-in with her, I was trimming a dead branch by the shoreline when she swooped in. "That tree is part of the shared view corridor. You can't cut it without board approval," she snapped. "It's dead wood. Ma'am, it could fall on someone." I said, "We'll see what the board thinks." She spun on her heel and click-clacked off down the gravel. That was my welcome. Months later, I decided to build a fire pit. I'd combed through the county fire codes, read the HOA bylaws line by line, nothing prohibited it. I did everything right. Gravel base, stone ring, spark screen, water hose on standby. I wasn't reckless. I was careful. The first night I lit it, I grilled a couple hot dogs under the stars. Karen appeared out of the shadows, phone in hand. That's a serious violation. I'm calling the board. 2 days later, sirens, fire trucks, the whole HOA trailing behind her. There, Karen shrieked, jabbing a finger at me. Illegal fire pit, endangering the neighborhood. I braced myself for humiliation, but the fire chief crouched down, ran his hand across the stones, then looked up at the crowd. Whoever built this knew exactly what they were doing. Safest fire pit I've seen in years. Karen's jaw dropped. The board members whispered, stunned. My chest finally loosened until Karen leaned close, her voice a hiss only I could hear. "This isn't over. David, you'll regret ever moving here." Act 2, Escalation and Turning Point. Turns out, that was just the opening salvo. Within days, violation notices started piling up. One said my grass was too long. Another claimed my porch light was excessively bright. Then came the big one, a letter accusing my dock of extending into community lake space. The dock had been there 30 years long before I bought the cabin. I stared at that letter and actually thought, maybe she's right. Maybe I am the problem. Maybe I should just sell this place and leave. That was the lowest point. I sat on my porch with a cup of coffee, hearing Ellen's voice in my head. Kindness is a long game. Dave, it doesn't always win in the first quarter. But I clenched my jaw. I hadn't worked 3 decades in steel just to get bullied out of my retirement. That night, Mark, my neighbor, 2 doors down, showed up with a folding chair and a 6-pack of root beer. He sat beside my pit and said, "You stood your ground against her." People noticed. "You've got more support here than you think." For the first time in weeks, I felt hope. But Karen doubled down. She planted a huge orange sign in my yard. "Unsafe fire pit. Remove immediately." I didn't rip it out. I photographed it from every angle and drove to the fire station. Chief Reynolds was furious when he saw it. He drafted a letter praising my fire pit as exceeding county safety standards, and even asked to use it in training materials. That night, I taped his letter right beside Karen's orange sign. Neighbors stopped, read both, and started clapping. Karen's face went red as a fire engine. 2 nights later, I woke to a crash. My fire pit was destroyed. Stones toppled, gravel kicked, the safety screen bent in half. It wasn't vandalism, it was war. I called the sheriff. "Got any idea who'd do this?" he asked. I almost laughed. Karen Johnson, 3 doors down. He raised his brows. We've had calls about her before, but even he didn't know how far she'd go, because the next week, fire tore through her property. Flames ate up her porch. Wind carried sparks toward my cabin, and the night sky glowed orange. Kids were screaming, buckets were flying, and Karen was frozen on her porch, shrieking, "Somebody help me!" And I had a choice. I could have let her face the fire alone. But I heard Ellen again. Kindness is a long game. So I ran straight into the smoke, grabbed her arm, and dragged her off the steps as boards cracked like gunshots. The neighbors, the same people she'd bullied, chained together with hoses and buckets to save her home. And when the fire crews arrived, Chief Reynolds spotted me in the chaos and shouted, "Miller, good to see you already working. Stay with that hose line." It was surreal. Out of everyone there, he trusted me. Not her. When the flames finally died down, Karen's cabin stood blackened but still standing. She sat on the gravel, coughing, hair wild, stripped of her crown. For once, she wasn't barking orders. She just looked small. Act 3, the showdown. I thought that would end things. But no. A week later, a certified letter slid under my door. Emergency compliance hearing. Subject: David Miller. Unauthorized firefighting activity. Liability risk to the HOA. I almost laughed at the absurdity. I'd helped save her house, and now I was the problem. The meeting room smelled like floor wax and fear. I came armed with proof. Reynolds' letter, receipts, police reports, photos of my pit, and a stack of handwritten notes from neighbors. Karen sat at the board table, folder clutched like a weapon. I spoke first. I built my fire pit according to code. Chief Reynolds inspected it, praised it, and asked to use it as a model. Here's his letter. And these statements are from neighbors about how I've conducted myself here. The board read in silence. Heads nodded. Then Karen stood. Her voice was sharp, her chair screeching. She slapped photos on the table, grainy shots of me helping firefighters drag a hose, crouching with Mark to wet the grass. "This man is a vigilante," she declared. "He is dangerous to this community." The door opened mid-sentence. Chief Reynolds walked in, followed by a county fire investigator. "Ms. Johnson," the chief said calmly, "the term you're looking for is bystander assistance. And it's not only legal, it's encouraged. Mr. Miller acted exactly the way our safety workshops teach wetting grass, clearing brush, keeping kids back. And his fire pit, it doesn't just meet code, it exceeds it." Then the investigator stepped forward. Preliminary report confirms the fire originated on Ms. Johnson's deck from an overturned gel fuel fire bowl in high winds, not Mr. Miller's fire pit. The room went dead quiet. Karen's face drained of color. "This is a smear," she started, but nobody moved to back her. The board chair cleared his throat. "Motion to remove the unsafe fire pit sign policy, issue a written apology to Mr. Miller, and adopt the county's fire safety flyer. All in favor?" 4 hands went up. Only Karen stayed down. She glared at me across the table, eyes blazing, but her power was gone. And just when the meeting was about to adjourn, a deputy stepped in. "Miss Johnson, could I speak with you outside? We've received video footage regarding a vandalism report." Every head turned. Karen froze. The deputy waited. Slowly, she rose, clutching her folder, and walked out into the hallway like a queen stripped of her crown. Inside, the room exhaled. Years of fear cracked like ice under warm shoes. For the first time, the HOA wasn't under her thumb. And me, I sat there, finally steady, not triumphant, just steady. Closing line. Power built on fear always crumbles, but truth and patience hold.